Hi, guys. Welcome back to the podcast. This is episode 7 of the Black Standard podcast. I hope everybody is doing well. Before we begin, we're going to do our daily mantra. As you guys know, we repeat this in every single episode. So the mantra goes like this: I am happy to be alive. My heart is clean, my mind is open, and I'm ready to receive. So if you're listening to this on Anchor, Apple Podcast, YouTube, go ahead and repeat after me. I'm happy to be alive. My heart is clean. My mind is open. I'm ready to receive. You guys know that I'm extremely big on manifestation, so that's very important. Our quote of the day is: only those who risk going too far can possibly find out how far one can go. So that's a quote about taking risks today, and that is extremely fitting for the episode that we're going to be doing. And that quote is going to be by T.S. Eliot. Okay, so we are actually going to be talking about, starting a financing company. And I actually have a guest today. Today's guest was raised in St. Mary by his grandparents until the age of 11, where he then moved to a new city in Jamaica. That city is called Maypen, and then he lived with his mom. After that, he started his first business at 18 years old with a group of friends as an event promoter and marketer. And he basically did that just for fun. Can you believe it? But then after that, he started his company at 23 years old, you know, um, with a subset of some of those friends from the parties as well. Now, to date, he's currently 28 years old. So 5 years later, and he has successfully planted his foot in the finance industry. And he enjoys traveling to beautiful destinations, liming with friends. He loves planning and executing. And he specifically said that he absolutely loves when a plan comes together. So, Andre, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Courtney, and thank you for having me.
Hi, that was a good introduction. I'm really proud of you.
Thank you, thank you.
So,
Years in
how
the
are you
making.
doing today?
I'm doing well, and actually,
Okay.
I love your mantra. It's very,
Yeah,
receiving.
yeah, I'm very big on manifestation. The more you
Hmm.
say it, the more it becomes real. So, we're going to jump straight into the questions, Andre. So, tell me a little bit about yourself. You said you grew up in St. Mary. So, what was St. Mary life like for you?
St. Mary Life. It was very. It's a country setting. Very, very country. Very, very rural. My grandmother, she was a dressmaker. Oh, she is a dressmaker. My grandfather was a farmer, beekeeper. He did livestock, he did crops as well.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, passed some years ago.
Okay.
But that was the setting that I grew up in. I went to church every Sunday. Um, my school was just right down the road, so walked to school every morning. Naturally, my grandfather used to bring me on his bicycle. So it was a very homey and very close knit community and a close knit family.
Okay, that's good. So, what was college like for you? You also attended the Caribbean Maritime University. I mean, back then it was Caribbean Maritime Institute.
Yeah,
But what was college life like for you?
it was very new. I started college. I honestly did not know what I wanted to do,
Mm-hmm.
but I did a brief analysis of the universities that I would like to attend.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, UA was on the top pick,
Of
but
course.
then Maritime had those school uniforms, and I was like, I would look really good in that uniform. So that was one of the motivations. And then I did some research into shipping logistics and supply chain management, which that's what I studied. So that was what drew me to the institute in the first place. College life, in a sense, I guess I didn't get the full I didn't get the full, let's say, experience of what TV purported to be, with the whole partying and stuff, because I was more, let's say, more focused on other things while going to school,
You
because
had
I
other
knew that,
passions.
yeah, that deep down that's not what I wanted to do.
Got it. And that's okay. So, after college, I'm gonna get into the whole, leaving college and stuff. But what was your first job after college?
Actually, I never went into the working world after college. Um,
You've never done
I
corporate?
no, I never did. I never did the corporate thing. I can tell
Okay.
you what I did right before college though. In moving to Kingston from Maple, I worked at a tuck shop. And
Mm-hmm.
for your viewers who don't know what a tuck shop is, it's basically like a commissary on a university. You know,
You did that at school or
no,
was
I actually did it at Edna Manley School of
oh,
Visual
oh,
Arts here. So I
got
did
it.
that right before I started, just to basically save up a little before starting school.
Okay. So you're here now at 28. You're still 28, right?
Yes, I am 28.
So you're here, big businessman, big boss. Tell me a little bit about quitting college. I mean, it takes a lot of guts to drop out of college. And I just want you to tell me like why? Like why did you make that step? Tell me about that.
It was, as I said, starting and doing that degree it didn't align with what I wanted for my life.
Mhm.
And I basically sat one day and I looked probably like 5 years into the future and say like,
This is
where will
not
I
for
be?
me.
Yeah, after I graduate here with this degree. I know if I like pursued it and completed the degree and delved into the field, giving my skills and just my natural attributes, I would probably reach far and achieve certain goals. But that's not what I wanted to build for myself in terms of a legacy and basically being my own boss and just fulfilling my entrepreneurial passions.
So were you sending yourself to school or did you have parents? Because I'm asking, a lot of
Mhm.
persons aren't honest enough with themselves to say I'm not doing this anymore. And
Mhm.
especially when you're not the person funding your tuition, it kind of it creates a little tension if you want to like switch majors or drop out of college. And then on
Mhm.
top of that, most parents don't really grasp the whole entrepreneurship thing or mindset. And at such a young age to say, hey, I'm not going to do this anymore. I want to know if you were the one if you were self-funded, basically.
Okay. Well, no. Um,
Really?
student loan, the student loan bureau covered my tuition. I took student loan to go to school.
Well,
But
I
the
meant
other
like your
aspect,
parents or your grandma, so to speak.
well, my dad was supporting me in terms of rent and funding and so forth. He
So,
was doing a small portion, but the other portion was me.
so what was his response?
That conversation didn't go over well because he's very traditional. He wanted me to finish, basically because I would be the first of my generation to basically complete university within the
Right.
family.
And
So
then
I guess he
ah,
really wanted that, milestone and that benchmark. But I sat him down one day and I said, "Hey, pops, this is what I want to do." And he was like, I don't agree with that, but I'm saying, all right, just have a little faith. You probably won't see my vision right now, but have a little faith.
so like did he cut you that well not cut you off, but was he
Mm.
like, weird after that? Like was he disappointed? Was he
He wanted to know what the plan was, and at that time, I didn't have a full
you
layout of the
didn't have
plan.
a
I
full
just know
plan?
that hey, I want to take this step. You understand? And I could have done it while doing school as well, but I didn't want to be drawn between two worlds. I wanted to be fully focused
Yeah.
because as an entrepreneur, things come up like out of the blue sometimes, and you have to be everything for your business because it's basically like a newborn baby. So you have to be administrative staff, you have to be the lawyer, you have to be the accountant, you have to be everything. And mentally, you have to be 100% there. So yeah,
I,
I can
I
explain
I
that.
agree with you, and not necessarily for entrepreneurship, but when I was leaving high school, as you know, sixth form is kind of traditional in Jamaica, and I told my dad that I was not gonna do sixth form. That didn't go over so easily as
Mm-hmm.
well because the plan for him was, well, he referred to it as A levels, but it was what was it, CAPE at the time, the exams.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, "Are you sure about this? Are you sure?" Even when I was in my second year of college, my dad was still asking me if I was sure, because his thing was like A levels and then UE, not even CMI, because at the time, CMI was not a recognized university. So he was skeptical about that as well. And I know, I mean, parents can be skeptical, but it comes from a place of love, right?
Definitely.
So were you fearful of dropping out? You mentioned that you didn't have a plan. Um, I know drop like coming out of college and then like, okay, what am I gonna do? What were your thoughts leaving? It was CMI at the time, right? Or was it CMU?
Yes, yes. It was. I think it
Well,
just became CMU.
okay. So what were your thoughts leaving CMU, like not having a plan, not having a backup or a plan B?
I had a plan, as in what I wanted to do with business,
Right.
but in terms of seeing how I would achieve this plan, I had no clue. So coming out, it was exciting. I wasn't fearful for the most part because it was what I wanted to do. It was what I wanted to pursue and what I wanted to do in my life. So it was more liberating than anything else. CMU or the university was I was preparing for a life of conformity and not living through my purpose, which would eventually make me unhappy. So yeah, I wasn't fearful at all. I was excited, just doing everything and starting what I wanted to do for the rest of my life.
That's amazing. So, guys, Andre is the president of a financing company here in Jamaica, and it's called Tarpa Corp Limited, correct?
That's
So,
correct.
tell me a little bit about Tarpa Corp. I must admit, I did go through
Mhm.
your website last night. So I was really impressed, like the reviews, the layout. Not a lot of businesses here in Jamaica take the time out to have an established online platform. So I
Definitely.
must I must commend you for that. So just give me like a brief overview of Tarpa Corp, when it was started, what are the services that you offer now?
Okay, so the company was founded by myself and two of my very close friends, basically brothers, Nico and Jason.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, what we do is we give me a second, sorry. What we do is that we facilitate financing for individuals wanting to experience, basically various overseas work and travel programs. For example, the J1 program, you have
Right.
other programs that individuals work in Europe, they work in Canada, work in Africa. That was the basis of when we just started. So that and the reason why we delved into that, while going to CMU, I went on the J1 program. And for many individuals, that is the means by which
We
they
make our
pay their
money, right?
tuition. Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, it's very, very costly to access. So me going through that, well, all three of us went on the program and we faced that same challenge. So the company was born out of a need base because it was straight across the board. Like J1 was or is the hottest thing when it comes to financial freedom for university students,
In
not having to
Jamaica.
take student loans. Yes, in Jamaica.
Well, in Jamaica and I would say the Caribbean and other countries, because for the listeners who don't know, because we do have listeners internationally, the J1 program is basically like a work and travel program where you leave from your country to go to the US. It's like a cultural experience, but you also are provided with a job to offset your expenses while living there. Now, for countries like Jamaica with such a indifferent exchange rate ratio, a lot of us use that quote unquote job to actually supplement our tuition or businesses or even our lifestyle, because coming to college, some of us have to live on dorms, etc. So what Andre is basically talking about is that really kickstarted his need for financing, right? Is that what you're saying?
Definitely. Yes,
Right.
yes.
So apart from the J1 program, um, do you offer any other services, personal loans, stuff like
Definitely.
that?
Yes, yes. Starting out, that was our core focus, but as we
Mhm.
grew, we actually had the opportunity to tap into other markets in terms of personal loans or staff loans, and those
Mhm.
are a couple of services that we added over time. And since you asked recently, yesterday we launched a new
I saw that.
service, which is which is basically the first of its kind in Jamaica. In other parts of the world, it's very popular, and that service is credit repair.
Oh,
Yes.
well, tell me a
And
little bit about that. What is that?
well, all right. So credit is the ability that any individual possesses to basically access financing. A lot of individuals run into bad credit situations because of not making payments on time, not making payments at all.
Mm.
Basically sometimes they have bad loan terms, and basically in the economy that we have right now, it's easy for individuals to fall into these situations, especially during a pandemic when individuals are losing
Right.
their jobs and so forth. So a lot of individuals will come out on the other end with a smeared credit report, and that in turn can limit your access to financing. It can be a shot in the leg when it comes to, if you're thinking about making major purchases, like if you're thinking of taking out a mortgage,
Mhm.
if you're thinking of taking out a car loan, bank and other traditional institutions are going to run your credit report, and they're going to see, oh, all right, you have, a subpar credit score. Well, we can give you the financing, but you're gonna have to put down a 50% deposit, or you're gonna have
Or the
to,
interest rate is high.
a higher than normal interest rate.
Yeah.
So these are the things that individuals with bad credit have to contend with. And for years, there haven't been any services or means by which you can rectify such a problem. So seeing that need, we stepped in, we did our research, and basically we have 5 years in the business when it comes to running individuals' credits, because that is a part of the process when it comes to us providing financing. So we have a very extensive record of handling and understanding how the credit bureaus work or credit laws in Jamaica work. And now we're ready to provide a service to fix that problem for a lot of Jamaicans.
Okay. I like that. I like that. And I do agree with you in terms of the pandemic, persons being laid off, what could be considered as usual expenses might now be way above their means. And I've recently
Definitely.
learned that actually paying, even though you make a payment, the fact that it's late can still affect your credit report. I learned that recently. So I commend that move. So let the listeners know if your service is for everyone. You mentioned the J1 program, you mentioned personal loans, and you also mentioned credit repairs. So is your service for everyone?
Starting out, our services weren't for everyone, because we were just targeting, university students who wanted to, you know, take their own financial freedom into their own
Mhm.
hands. And as we grew, we then did staff loans, we then did personal loans. We also have other personalized loans when it comes to other specific overseas programs. So our services are mainly targeted at wealth creation through means of education and overseas travel and work programs. So currently, no, we're not for everyone, but as we grow and mind you, adding the credit repair service, we're becoming a more inclusive institution.
Oh, so you're basically saying that your service is centered around students and financial literacy and personal finance. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, and now
Okay.
we're stepping into young
You're
adults and
stepping into
grown
bigger
individuals.
things.
Definitely, we can
That's
grow.
great. That's great. So if you could give me a figure, I know probably you might not be able to keep track of how many persons, but just off the top of your head, how many lives or students would you say that you've impacted so far?
Ah, and
Just
you want a numerical figure. I would say
off the top of your head.
it's in the thousands. And when you take into consideration the ripple effect of that,
Right.
it's in probably tens of thousands, because these very students, they have moms, they have siblings, they're
Mhm.
looking towards these students as to become the breadwinner of certain families. You understand? Since you asked, we have one specific individual that came to mind, because we did, in our first year operation, and after we successfully financed a couple students, we did a interview basically with some testimonials, and there was this one individual, Lester Hibbert. I remember him, like it was this. He came to us, he needed financing. He didn't have parents, and basically he had siblings that depended on him.
Right.
So we offered him the financing. He went and he did his very utmost best. Came back, he milked the program to the max. He came back, he was able to pay
He went hard.
Yeah, definitely. He was able to pay his tuition, clear off what he took for student loan for that year. Was able to send his little sister to school, basically take care of the household.
Really?
So yeah, so it was down to where me wanting to, just start a business and live through my purpose is now adding value to individuals' lives and basically providing for households and so forth. So it's very impactful.
And it's funny you should mention that, because in episode 6, I had an agent from Sagicor. Her name was Bianca. And we were basically speaking about financial literacy and Black persons or persons of color. And I think what you're doing is extremely important, not just because it's helping persons immediately, but long-term as well, in terms of, generational financial literacy, personal finance, having persons set up the right way. And especially in Jamaica, I know that a lot of kids going through college, they have that struggle to actually finish. And it's not because of ignorance of the course material, but actually tuition. Understand? And having or being able to actually graduate or get a decent job afterwards. I think the J1 program is extremely important. And I think what you're doing as well in terms of the credit repair, it also has long-term effects. You know what I mean? Because these kids, when they're older, as you said, they're going to want houses, they're going to want cars. And the sooner they understand the importance of these things, they can pass that information on to their kids. And that's what me and Bianca, that's what we were talking about, how we need to actually change the narrative of financial literacy in the homes, finding economical leverage as a person of color. It's our responsibility, so to speak, to fix that, because over the years, we've had equal qualifications, equal creativity, but somehow on the economical scale, we've always been put at a disadvantage. So I highly respect you for this. Believe me, I highly respect you for that. So just to shift points here, did you face any obstacles starting your business? I know entrepreneurship can be extremely difficult sometimes, and especially in a third world country, starting a business can be even harder. So did you face any obstacles starting Tarpa Corp?
To this day, to this day, it's starting. It was a uphill battle. Stepping into this industry, which is practically $1 billion industry. Me just coming out of university, I didn't have the first cent. Understand? So yeah, the number one struggle that I faced when starting was capital. Access
I was
to
gonna
capital.
ask you.
I didn't come from a wealthy background. I couldn't say, hey, that you can get $500 million to start this business. It wasn't like that. So we had to think outside the box and think of ways that we can make the biggest impact with what we had. And that's what we did.
Okay. So, I mean, that brings me to my next question. Did you actually receive funding, or is Tarpa Corp strictly self-funded?
A portion of it is self-funded, but another portion to reach the levels that we want to reach. And I think this goes straight across the board, whether in business or whatever you want to achieve in life. You definitely need partners, and you need strategic partners that will help you see further than your vision was originally.
Right.
Help you touch as many lives as possible. And starting out, it manifested in ways that we never imagined. I want to give you a backstory. One of the founders, Jason, actually met a very key individual. He's like a mentor and a father to us. He met him at at a festival, and the conversation started from there. And, he came home and he ran the story by us and he said, yo, guys, I met this, gentleman, and, we kicked it off and we're talking about business. And, I told him about you guys and I wanted to meet you guys. So I said, all right, set up a phone call. So we got on the phone call, big gentleman, he's a lawyer as well. And we just basically told him our backstory and told him what we wanted to do with our lives. And he basically said, all right, cool. Come by the office tomorrow. I want to meet you guys. So we got dressed, went to the office, and we were there chit-chatting. And he was like, hey, I have two individuals that I want you guys to meet. And he brought in the CEO of a major financial company in Jamaica and the chairman. And he was like, hey, pitch. Tell them what you told me last night. And
Ooh.
we pitched, and that was the that was the start of our partnership that got us to where we are right now. And that's just a testament of when preparation meets opportunity.
Right.
Understand? So we made the most of that. Mhm.
And that last note that you said, preparation meets opportunity, I posted about that on the podcast Instagram page, and I've also spoken about it on my YouTube channel. You don't have to be in the situation as yet to be prepared for it. For example, I always say if I met, for example, Barack Obama at the supermarket right now, and he asks me what I do, I should be able to tell him exactly what I do and where I'm headed. You know what I mean? So I agree with you there.
Definitely.
Um, so let's
That's
talk
why
about,
your
yes,
mantra falls definitely. Your mantra it's very
definitely.
it sings right in, yeah.
Especially that
Manifestation.
bit, I am ready to receive daily, 24/7.
Yes. Yes.
So let's talk about launching. I know I can see the demographics for the podcast. So a lot of young persons are listening to this. And what was it like at your age launching? Because for me, I can tell you personally, as a young person, I've been doing business since about 18. You started at 23. I've started, no, actually, I've been doing business since high school. Guys, if you're listening to this, if you weren't selling Bobby or candy in high school, you're not a real hustler, okay? You're not a real
Bridge it
hustler.
up.
Anyway,
Mhm.
for me, the challenges I faced were people respecting me at that age and
Mhm.
people respecting me as a female. So you launching, you know, as I said, you quit college. Everyone's, I don't know if you kept in touch with your classmates, but I'm sure eyes were on you. Like people were like, what's he gonna do now? So
Yeah.
I'm sure you had to come correct for launch day, right? Tell us a little bit about launch day.
All right. So, you mentioned people respecting you at a certain age, and we face that. We've been on phone calls when people are like, okay, come in tomorrow. And you were like, oh, you were the guy I was talking to on the phone. They expected someone, age 50, age 40.
Mm,
And even more so in the type of industry that you're in, because, stepping into the industry, they're expecting individuals with, maybe a certain last name, individuals that have years and years of experience and so forth. So
right.
launching it you have to know within yourself that, hey, I'm gonna step out there and I'm gonna give it the best of the best. You
Period.
have to dig, yeah, you have to dig deep. You have to dig deep because there are days when you will be tested and you will be scrutinized because you're asking people, not just the general public who you intend to do business with, but future partners and so forth. You're asking people to take you at face value.
Right.
And when you're asking that, people are asking, what are you coming with? Why should I trust you? So you have to come correct.
Especially
You
with
have
their
to
money.
have, yeah, you have to have the integrity. You have to be a man of your word and you have to stick to the things that you say because people are watching.
Right. And that goes right across the board, deadlines and all. I mean, as simple as it sounds, um, even during college, there's something I observed while attending CMU. A lot of lecturers that I have a good relationship with, they didn't respect me because I got an A in their course. The small things like submitting an assignment on time, going the extra mile. ensuring that you actually read what they asked you to read, showing interest. All of that I think goes right across the board in terms of having integrity, because a lot of persons forget that these lecturers know people in the corporate space. Not just in the corporate space, but even entrepreneurship and networking. The world is extremely small.
Very.
So we're gonna get a little bit personal now. So let's talk about your influences. Whether it's direct or indirect, I think everyone has persons that they don't necessarily want to be like, but maybe a quality here and a personal trait there. Could you name three persons that you think have a major influence on you, or they inspire you?
I read over this question and was thinking about it, and I don't want to say that there aren't anybody, because there are individuals that I watch them on Instagram, and these are individuals that snap every day. For example, um, the CEO of First Rock. I think his company is very young, and the impact of what
First
he's
Rock
doing
has
is,
done
is very
amazing.
large. Because you'll drive past and you'll see a sign, covered up, and it's acres of land, and you're like, these individuals are making a big impact. I mean, how can you not be inspired by something like that?
Mhm.
So it's all around me, basically. But on another level, it's more innate and more deep down than that. Because on the days where you're not seeing or you're not being motivated by anyone, it has to come from the purpose that you have within and what you want for yourself. And for me personally, it's a legacy that I want to leave behind for generations to come. It's the longevity that I want to achieve. It's my fifth generation coming to inherit. That's something that I did today. And speaking to that, I visited my grandma on Mother's Day, and I went in the backyard and I picked a jelly, and I came back and I was start putting it and support. And she was like, your grandfather planted that jelly tree
Wow,
years ago. So that is
a
that
perfect
in
example.
an essence, that's a metaphor of something that I want to achieve. The seeds that I plant today, I want my generation to come in the years to come and reap from that and basically build on it. That is where my motivation comes from.
That's amazing, Andre. I like that. So I always ask my podcast guests this question. Um, if it is, because I mean, we're older now, but looking back on life, looking back at your journey, the things you've accomplished, the things you've done wrong, the things you've done right, if you could give your younger self one piece of advice, one solitary piece of advice. I'm talking 12 years old, about to leave primary or prep school, going into high school, not sure. Because at that phase, everybody's like, so what do you want to be? Like, what do you want to become? So if you
Mhm.
had to give, like, maybe your 12-year-old self a piece of advice, what would it be?
At 12 years old, I don't think I would even listen, but let's give it a shot. At 12 years old, I would tell my younger self, to put put myself out there more, because it was only at a later age that I realized that I had traits that would make me who I am today. If I
Mhm.
had realized these traits at an earlier stage or earlier age in my life, things would be different. But nothing before its time. But it would be to put myself out there more, put myself in situations that I could develop these very same traits earlier on, maximize my full potential, because I'm still in a work in progress, and the company is still a work in progress, and we're still learning. So
So
that's
what about your high school self? Since you're saying that 12 was maybe a little bit too young, let's take it a little further to maybe 17, you know.
17.
Or what age do we pick C-sex subjects again? Is it 15? Because the
Yeah, well,
C-sex this decides kind of what you want to, well, at the time, allegedly,
mm,
decides what we're gonna study in the future. So what would you tell your teenage self? Because for me in high school, I knew I wanted I just wanted to do medicine, surprisingly. I know a lot of people don't know that, but my entire life, right up until ninth grade, third form, I wanted to do medicine. I wanted to be either a surgeon or an obstetrician gynecologist. And I did not end up pursuing medicine because I had gotten how my high school is set up. Those exams in the ninth grade, my high school takes pride in good results. So if you don't have a good grade in the subject, they're not going to permit you to pursue that subject as a CSEC subject. And so I got a 97% in biology, and my teacher lost my grade. He lost my grade, and because he lost the grade, according to the rules, he could only put a C. He couldn't put an A because he doesn't have physical proof. So he had to put a C. It was a long story. So, long and short of it is the universe did its thing, and I didn't end up doing medicine. After that, between ninth grade and 11th grade, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I met two friends in fifth form, both attended CMU, and that's how it kind of aligned myself. I was like, this is an interesting industry. I'll probably just do this. So at that age, what were your feelings like? What were you thinking? And what would you tell that person in high school?
I would tell 17-year-old me to read more because the problems to basically a lot of solutions are within a book, and reading would basically suffice for 10 years of experience that I myself wouldn't have at that time. So even to date, solving a lot of problems and basically living through my purpose and basically maximizing my potential has been from a book. Because you might think that it's so simple. I mean, anybody would know this, but reading it and having it resonate in your mind that, okay, this is how I really need to apply myself. All of it is written within a book. So definitely read more and yeah, develop those traits that will make me into who I want to become.
Okay. So, guys, we're going to be wrapping up the podcast now. So, again, Andre is the president of Tarpa Corp Limited. So, Andre, tell the people where they can find you, drop your Instagram handle, a phone number, anything you want to do. You can plug yourself right now.
Uh, you can find me on Instagram at Dre_Enigma, but where you can definitely find me is at tarbacorplimited.com. And from there, you can read through our services if you're an individual who is in need of credit repair services. Whether if it's not just credit repair, you need to build your credit, you can contact us. If you're in need of financing, whether it be a personal loan, or if you're a student interested in going on the work and travel program or any overseas cultural exchange program for that matter of fact, you can contact us. We'll be happy to help.
So, guys, you heard the man. You can find him at J_Enigma, but you can also find him where the money resides, and that's on Tarper Corp's Instagram page. So, guys, in the description of the YouTube video and the podcast video, I will be leaving his business information. So, if you missed it during the podcast episode, you can always click the link in our description box and click the link in the podcast description as well. Andre, thank you so much for taking the time out. Much respect once more. I respected you before, but after this podcast, it went it went up some more. So thank you so much for coming. I'll see you guys in the next episode.